What's good? What is good, people? What is good? Back here in from Sacramento, California. Sunny day, sunny day. We are not being affected by those fires on the west coast that I'm hearing about. For some reason, it's still beautiful skies here, not gray skies like it was last year. Still bright blue. Not affected by them fires, but we are affected by the homelessness. And that's what we're going to get into in this video. Even in the suburbs here, you're seeing homeless people around. And this has been a problem, but it's about to get a lot worse. And for some reason, no one is really attempting to acknowledge it, except politicians. Politicians seem to now all of a sudden want to acknowledge it, at least on the end that we hear about. Obviously, there's probably a number of politicians who we don't hear about who have been trying to get this to the attention of the people, I guess, at the top, whatever you want to call it. And my battery is getting low, so hopefully it doesn't die on me during this video. Should have charged that, but I didn't know it was going to be that low. But yeah, I guess we'll start to get into it. Louis Rossman, that channel, Louis Rossman, definitely check out the video he had on the eviction moratorium ending. I watched that video after I wrote this script, and that video, he really goes into a good amount of detail about how basically it's a rock and a hard place here, because we're all looking to the government to do something about this problem, because at this point it can't be solved by private citizens, because there's already been too much government action for the past year. But basically you're going to be having 8 million to like 20 million, really God knows the exact number, of people who haven't paid rent in the past like over a year now, since the moratorium started. And so they didn't have to pay rent. So these landlords weren't getting their money for the past, I don't know how many months, over a year. So I've never been a landlord before, but like I know that landlords, a lot of those people rely on the checks that they get from their tenants in order to like do things like pay the mortgage. If it's like a house, like they gotta literally pay that mortgage, because a lot of them, they don't own the house outright, right? They pay mortgage to a bank, just like the renters pay rent to the landlord. The landlord pays a mortgage to the bank, so like they're relying on the cash flow. And a lot of, I don't even know where I was going with that, but like that's just something that you have to keep in mind here. Like, it's a rock and a hard place, because the landlords are basically getting fucked. And also, the tenants are getting fucked, because the tenants, a lot of these people were declared non-essential by, this same government that gave them the moratorium. They were declared non-essential, so they got kicked out of their work. And now a lot of those businesses that they may have worked for, a lot of those businesses actually just closed permanently. Like they're never gonna come back again. Like, I don't know the exact number, but there was millions of businesses that are closed and they'll never open up again. And so, yeah, you could say, oh, we have new businesses that are open now and they have worker shortages, and that's true. New businesses opened with worker shortages, but the thing is, a lot of those people, they were working for that place that they were previously working at for possibly years, and then they closed forever. So and then, that they weren't, and then there was a moratorium, so then these people didn't have to pay rent. So you think those people who lost their job because they were non-essential, you think they're going to be that eager to just jump back into the workforce, go look for a different employer, go get a different job? It's funny how when, like, it's like the government looks at these situations as like just jobs employers, employees, and things like that, and like labor force, and like they look at the numbers and stuff. But like these are actual people here, and people have tendencies and they have things that they like, familiar things that you just completely took away. And they're not just going to jump into new situations just immediately. So it's a rock and a hard place here because a lot of these people, they're not going to go back and find work, and they're not going to pay their rent because like you took away what they had. So if you end the moratoriums, you're going to be having a bunch of people homeless because they're going to get kicked out by the landlords because their landlords aren't making money off of them. And then there's other people willing to pay rent. So like they would, and then those people need money too. It's not like they're necessarily evil. It's just that they need money too to pay off those mortgages, to pay off like just improvement to the property and all that stuff. Just like a landlord, like there's a lot of expenses, and even to pay tax on, because there's property tax on the place in general. So there's like a lot of different things a landlord has to take care of, and if they're not getting cash flow, they're not getting cash flow, and then a lot of that stuff is on their back. So they're stressed out. And you had a bunch of, like a huge group of landlords sue the government because, like Louis Rossman was saying, there's something like, it's like 57 billion or something like that, $57 billion in lost revenues that landlords are suing for. And then it's, I forgot, like there's something like $27 billion that the landlords have to take on their back because there's like no government program to alleviate that burden, like that debt burden. So then there's like $27 billion that landlords owe apparently, and like $57 billion in terms of revenue that they didn't get. And those are just estimates, obviously. And like Louis Rossman said, those are just on the books. There's a lot of like off the books kind of interactions that we're missing here because that's just what's reported. Those numbers, those are just what's reported. There's a bunch of stuff that's just not reported. So, but then they're still dealing with the same things. So, like the amount of homeless that we could see on the streets if these moratoriums end are crazy. But like also, if the moratoriums don't end, there's a lot of downstream stuff that's going to happen that's crazy too. So it's basically a rock and a hard place here. But check out the Louis Rossman video. I'll try to leave the link in the description below, but like, let's just get into this script and try to make it quick so that doesn't die on me. But a bunch of people are about to be homeless and everything seems oddly predictable. MGTOW. So as you guys probably know if you watch this channel, housing moratoriums are ending. I don't know exactly what the extent of these things are. No one really knows the full extent, to be honest. But what I do know is the government is allowing people to forego their rent payments for a certain period of time and pay landlords back after. And like we discussed, once these people, they do not have the money to pay these landlords back. This is like thousands and thousands of dollars that they owe in back rents. That's probably like, and then a lot of these people haven't worked for the past year. So do you really think these people are going to get you really think these people have the cash to pay landlords back, even if they got stimmies? I mean, we're talking about what were the stimmies? Like, they were a few $100s or maybe a few $1,000s. Some people's rents are literally, they're a whole stimulus check for like a rent for 1 month. Like a whole stimulus check was like 1 month of rent for some of these people, because like some of these rents like $2,300, even around here. So I can't even imagine in bigger cities like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, things like that. Even around here, some of these rents are like $2,000. Like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. That's freaking insane. And it's like clearly not worth that price too. Like 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, the rent, they were like half the amount that they are now. So it just like these inflation numbers are like almost funny at this point. It's clown world, like Myron says. Myron gains from Impression for this clown world. But so that time period of the moratorium is almost up. I think it actually is up at the end of July, which is like literally tomorrow, if it's not extended. And many people cannot afford to make up all these postponed payments. This is apparently going to be the genesis of yet another new crisis. Crisis after crisis, guys. Like, this is Soviet Union right here. So where a bunch of people are going to be booted out of their homes. Many lawmakers are mad at President Joe Biden for not doing something about this sooner. And apparently now he's trying to encourage some last-minute legislation to extend the moratorium, which will probably happen because nobody wants to see millions and millions of homeless people. Even those landlords, they don't, in their gut, they don't want to see it. But like they also don't want to see their property taken back by the bank because they can't pay the mortgage. And this is why the Fed is buying so many mortgage-backed securities. But I'll get into that in another video, and I'll research that more. But there's a reason the Fed is literally buying like $80 billion of mortgage-backed securities every month. Like, someone's got to pay the banks who are losing money because landlords can't pay rent, or landlords can't pay mortgages who are losing money because their tenants can't pay rent. Like, there's just a cycle of like cash flow around here, and the Fed is basically just like buoying up the whole thing. And who knows how long that can last, because like we said in the previous video, how many of the central banks around the world are going to keep holding US dollars in reserve if the value of the currency just keeps going down? And obviously, since everything's relative, as we discuss on this channel, all currencies are relative, and most of them are relative to the US dollar as the world reserve currency. We're in an era of floating currencies. So their currency, a lot of times, is actually devaluing faster than the US currency is. So, like, I mean, just to make your head spin there, but we won't get into that in this video fully because this is about homeless people. So this is nuts. I say that in the script. This is all nuts. You tell people to stay at home and not work and don't pay anything for a year, and here's what it leads to. They're not all of a sudden gonna say, hey, I have all the money to like pay back all the stuff that I didn't have to pay in the last year. After you took away my job, I just kept going on with my life and like making money. You know, that's not how things work. So we're at a point now where the government is going to have to keep giving citizens breaks and money on an individual level, and the government will also have to buy up debts and give out money on the corporate and small business level as well. And that's essentially a small business. So you're seeing it on all like multiple levels here. As I went into detail in my last video, how long can we keep printing all this cash and using it for consumption and buyouts? Who knows? Right now, it seems like the greatest scarcity in the economy is government money. And that's facts. Everyone is fighting for access to more government money rather than on other things in the so-called economy. So everybody's fighting for access to more government money, whether you're suing the government, whether you're fighting to get loans from the government, or whether you're fighting to get like just outright breaks from the government or stimmies from the government. Whatever you're fighting for, people are trying to fight for access to government money rather than actually doing things in the so-called economy. And it's because the government has taken control of so many things in the economy. Like, they're buying mortgage-backed securities, they're buying stocks, they're buying corporate debt. They're like basically buying out people's will to revolt almost, if that makes sense. Like, that's what it's hard to seem like once you start putting things together. And this kind of leads me to my next point. Everything seems almost predictable at this point. You just follow the created money and you can start to see what's going to happen. Look at all these economics YouTube channels like Epic Economist, for example, a great channel. He's doomsday on every single video. Every single video he's doomsday. And at first I was like, wait, why is this guy always doomsday? Back when I was watching the videos like last year, I'm like, why is this guy always doomsday? But the more I learn about the system, Though where I'm like, oh, okay, no wonder this guy's Doomsday in every single video. Literally every single title, it's Doomsday. And no wonder. So, like Economist, for example. That guy has been making videos upon videos about the impending homelessness crisis for the past year. And he's not even the only channel. There's so little going on in the real economy now that once you wrap your head around a few key things and you follow the created money, you can predict the future with a stunningly high degree of accuracy. The same cycles keep happening over and over again in short succession because there's not a great amount of new concepts, new innovations, new ideas, or even new people to buffer it. And we've talked about birth rates, we're going to keep talking about birth rates. There's literally not even a great amount of new people to buffer like all of this crap that we're seeing, like the same cycles happening over and over again. It's in such short succession because there's literally no new people to like do some new shit to not have the same thing happen over and over again. Like the average age is what, like mid-30s and higher. Come on, like we're going to talk about birth rates later because that's very interesting. Once you have the same stuff happening over and over and over again with the same people and the same corporations, etc., things get predictable and stale, and everyone starts getting mental health problems and incentives diminish. That's what we're seeing now. In short, everyone gets bored. Hence me starting this YouTube channel. So that's it for now. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's see if we can make this whole thing more interesting. Slow and steady wins the race, etc., etc. All those old sayings about just keeping at it. That's what we're doing here on this channel. So definitely like, comment, subscribe, share, do what you gotta do. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all later. Peace out. Don't let the bed bugs bite.